Thank you for joining me, fellow Guardians. This is Sam from Multiverse Mission Control, and today's quest is learning video games. Shooters are a very common model for video games these days. Some might say depressingly common, especially if everything is brown and gray and it's set in World War II. Which game am I talking about? Throw a flippin' dart! Even so, when you get a good one, you get a good one. And as this is likely to be what your friends are doing around the console, perhaps a few tips are in order. There are certain compulsive habits you'll need to learn in order to stay alive. Like, I'm not even kidding, if you're high-functioning OCD, you might actually excel at shooters. Whenever you have a beat of downtime, reload. Even if your clip isn't empty. You can control your downtime actions, but in the moment, you act on instinct and reflex, and it'll really suck to run out of ammo in the heat of the moment. So the compulsion is daka daka daka, everyone's dead, reload. More daka. In fact, if you seem to have caught a rare window of quiet in single-player story mode, you'll just want to continually check your inventory to be sure you know what you have. You'll want to know what you can rely on with impunity, and what you should save for the special moments. You may not always control what happens, and you may still panic and lob a grenade at the wrong note when startled. Not that I personally... but making that mental note ahead of time can save you from wasting valuable gear. In single player, any scenario could potentially turn into a firefight. When you enter a room, sweep the camera around to spot potential baddies. If things seem calm, inch in and give a more thorough examination. Note any potential cover or hazards, even if everything seems non-threatening. Be prepared to place a column or table or anything between you and any potential sniper. And avoid standing near any explosives, oh boy. But on the other hand, be ready to turn them to your advantage. As with platformers, you should spend a bit learning about how your character moves. Even though mobility tends to be less varied than in platformers, you'll still want to know how to run away screaming. Or how to crouch down and go, please don't hit me, please don't hit me. Plus, depending on the game, there may be one or more ace-in-the-hole kinds of tricks to either make up for your lack of mobility, or else grant you some temporary enhancement as such. Indeed, playing a few platformers before trying a shooter can actually help you get into the rhythm better. But far more important is mastering the camera. This will be how you aim, after all. The same questions from the platforming episode apply. These are your eyes. Know how to use them. You'll want to get to the point where you can whip it around on a dime to face an oncoming threat. More than that, some of the most complicated maneuvers in shooters are only possible if you have good camera basics. Longtime viewers may remember how I advised running away to get some breathing room and then whipping the camera around. That's a trick you use here a lot. Even if you can't always keep a line of sight on what you're fighting, you should always keep moving so you don't get hit. One must remember where their enemy was and where they're likely to be headed next. When it's you versus another player, the game becomes like high-speed rock, paper, scissors. Your gut tells you what they're going to do next, and you act accordingly. Perhaps the most taxing thing a player has to learn is to move themselves in one direction and move the camera in another. But once you adjust to your new eyes, you'll be able to use the shooter's ace, the circle strafe. This daredevil trick involves running circles around the enemy, keeping the camera on them and lighting them up all at the same time. Imagine flying an RC chopper. Imagine flying an RC copter. You're pushing one stick to lift it up and the other to turn it towards you. The left thumb never changes direction, while the right thumb slowly rotates. Of course, it's easy to just say it out loud, harder to do in the moment. And if you ever see someone trying to strafe you, aim where they're going, not where they are. Winning at a shooter is only cool and edgy if you're still around after the dust clears. Then you can give a had it under control the whole time. In the moment, it's like wrestling a badger. Heart in your throat, teeth gritted, eyes gritted, frantic action. Bouncing everywhere and screaming, why won't you die? Think hardcore Nerf gun fight, and remember to breathe. But of course, adrenaline can be addicting, and the endorphin burst afterward, to die for. Quite literally sometimes. Okay, with the basics out of the way, let's show off the quest board. This is a list of titles that I believe will make good starting games for this genre. This is meant only to be a suggestion, as difficulty is a very subjective thing. People have managed to get started with much harder and much weirder, at least to my mind. Oh, and kid viewers, unless your parents are cool with it, please stick to the age-appropriate titles. I don't want to get in trouble. With that, here's a list of good starting shooter games for new players. Once you've got the basics down and a better idea of what you want out of games like this, decide for yourself what challenge to explore next. Ask a friend, watch a review, or poke around online a bit, and choose a title that seems consistent with what you learned or that will challenge you to the next step up. When you're able to set your own goals, the process of getting good becomes much more fulfilling. Okay, so next time, we're gonna cover brawlers. So, thank you all for tuning in, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and remember, you all have the potential to get good. Peace out.